Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching The Walking Dead Dead City Season 3, Episode 4, and I have a feeling that this one is probably going to be a little bit more on the controversial side than at least most of the episodes because it involves Maggie finally having a love interest. And for those comic fans, you may know where this story is going. So that is pretty much the whole focus of this episode. I'm just going to run through it really quickly as a synopsis. You're going to see me chilling here because I'm chilling at a table. So I've been trying, if you haven't noticed, for Dead City, I've been trying to film in different spots. I'm also trying to get comfortable. People are walking around. I'm trying to get comfortable talking in front of a camera, in front of people. This is my way of doing it. Anyway, whatever. You don't need to know the whole spiel. This episode revolves around the whole concept that's already been kind of explored in that they are out of medicine at this hospital. So Luis decides to go with Maggie, or is not even decides, Renata kind of makes him go with Maggie to this person that they heard of from one of the survivors who came in called the Traitor. That's her name. Hi guys, I'm the Traitor. Like, what the fuck? First off, who names themselves the Traitor? That's a goofy name. I understand that's your trade. That's a goofy name. Whatever, but the whole point of the episode is that Luis and Maggie are going together to find the Traitor, and if I heard correctly, they have to go towards Maryland to do so. So from New York City to Maryland, it's like a 7-hour drive. That's very far. Maybe not 7, but it's close to it. It's a far drive, but I could be wrong. Maybe they were going somewhere else. I don't know. It looked like Boston. It didn't look like, or it looked like Massachusetts, whatever, that's beside the point. So they're going to her to try to get medicine, and there was a whole list. It was like penicillin, morphine, blah, 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 poo, 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 pee, pee, pee. You know what I mean? The whole list. I'm an adult, guys, by the way. I'm 29. Anyway, so that's what they're doing the whole episode. They're on the way, and the gist of it, I'll just get to what happens. They go to the Trader, they trade for those medicine, they find a community, they come back, and as they come back, a sinkhole happens, and the B-plot of it is Renata somewhat threatens Negan into staying, or she'll tell Maggie that he killed the Dama because she knows that he killed the Dama, but it wasn't really a threat, and it seems like maybe they're setting something up there too, but we can look past all of this because the biggest point of this episode was to show that Luis is going to be the new Dante from the comics in the terms of a love interest for Maggie. And those of you guys who know how I felt about Negan and Maggie and how animated I got over that concept, you'll be surprised to hear that I am totally okay with them exploring the Dante storyline in some way, shape, or form. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm very much on board for them doing something like that because I think it's actually a natural, good, progressive story for Maggie's character. And I'm glad by the end of this episode that they just didn't give it up. It wasn't like that scene that happened in this episode where they kissed was real. It's what Maggie was feeling, and her response to that was, I can't do this for Glenn. I can't be happy for Glenn. I can't do that because I have to honor him in death even all of these years later. But she wants to. In her heart, in her mind, she has the desire to, but she can't because she can't do that to Glenn. So I like that they attack it from both angles, where, to me, I'm fully on board with the concept of so much time has passed. That doesn't mean you don't love or respect the person. That, honestly, in life is an intricate topic. I know someone in my personal life, I don't want to name names, but I know someone who lost someone in 9/11 who was a firefighter, and she had since remarried. And I think about that all the time when I think about things like that. Like, just because someone you love in your core is gone doesn't mean you can't also love at the same time. It's an intricate topic. I bring it up to say it is a very intricate topic in and of itself, the concept of finding love after you've lost someone in such a tragic way. And it's the same sort of thing here. Like, it's the same sort of thing. Maggie is going through this where, years ago she had Glenn and now she doesn't have Glenn, but she still has to live a life. Herschel's older. Herschel's now a fucking doctor. So, like, in the end of the day, what is it, what life does she have to live? I'm very glad they're exploring it in a way that doesn't feel insulting to the character. That was always my biggest concern with anything they did, specifically if they did it with Negan. To do it with Negan is in general a cardinal sin. For them to be friends and all of that stuff and have built a bond over these years from what they've done, that doesn't bother me in the slightest, at all. I'm totally okay with that because that feels like natural progression for their story. In this sake, I mean, in the reality of a situation like this, I don't think this would ever happen, but for the sake of this story, Negan and Maggie becoming friends after all these years, so what? That's okay. But the idea of them having a relationship, that's a problem. You can't do that. So this honestly does feel like a natural progression, at least in my mind, on the same end, for Maggie to find some sort of pseudo love with Louise, but be restricted by that and not able to actually pull the trigger on that sort of thing quite yet. I do think we're going to get it. I think definitely that is where this is leaning towards. And if, again, I brought it up and I'll say it again. For those of you guys who don't know the comics, there is a storyline that happens much quicker in terms of I think there was a time jump, but there was a storyline in the comics where Maggie dates or becomes, in a relationship with a doctor. His name was Dante. They hinted at this storyline, by the way, in season 10 with Dante from the Whisperers, but they completely subverted that storyline, which I honestly think was the right move because I think it would have been very jarring and too soon to see on screen for Maggie for that to happen. Plus, I don't think Maggie was even in the story at this point. And she wasn't in the season, so they couldn't really do Dante that way, so they had to rewrite it. But I actually think the way they did it was totally okay. I actually enjoyed it. They had a thing with Sadiq there, and then he was the imposter. Cool story, honestly, all things considered. So that happened, whatever. So they didn't get the chance to do Dante from the comics in the real world. They didn't get to do it in terms of the cinematic show, the universe, if one will, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They didn't have the chance to do that. So they're doing it now. The character's name is Luis. It's not Dante, but it is objectively the same story. What I liked that we learned in this episode, it feels a little forced, but what I liked that we learned in this episode is that Luis himself had a wife, but the wife went off to find her family when everything started, and she just never came back. So in his head, he knows she's dead, but the uncertainty of that kind of keeps him up at night. I love that. Actually, to this point, I will say, all things considered, there was cheesy dialogue. The traitor name was goofy. Even her dialogue, her smoking the pipe, that stuff was a little goofy. But this episode actually, for the first time in a very long time, felt like classic Walking Dead to me. And I love this season for the story it's giving of this classic Walking Dead feel. In that, I like that we are seeing Maggie actually, or we are seeing, not Aggie, we are seeing the rebuilding of civilization again. That is what an apocalypse story should be doing. It should be doing that from the start. I can't complain in the slightest by how they're doing it or how they're going about it. And again, every episode I'm going to say it, but it is true. This should have been Dead City from episode 1, season 1. I don't understand for the life of me how this was deviated and how this went off course and didn't become that at all. And I will say while we're talking about it, because I really objectively don't have much more to say about the episode, probably some things will be interspersed here, but Jeffrey Dean Morgan really recently went on a podcast, someone Horowitz, I forget his name, Sad Happy something podcast, whatever, doesn't matter. And he was talking about how he almost left the show. I already did a short of this. I didn't think it warranted a whole video. Plus I saw Dan's Reviews, Movie Idol talking about it. I don't have any other input other than, yeah, good, it's about time. So I figured I'd just make a short about it. But I do want to talk about it a little bit here, because I think everything Jeffrey Dean Morgan was concerned about and vocalized is actually being fulfilled this season. So those of you guys who don't know, Jeffrey Dean Morgan at the end of season 2 called the head of the AMC and said that he's going to leave if they don't fix the show because the show doesn't make any sense. Negan's character was a pussy. It doesn't make sense why they're doing the same story over and over again, and it just doesn't feel right. That was essentially what he called and complained about. He said, if these things don't get fixed, this is my last season. I'm done. I'm going to walk away from the show. I'm glad he did that, and I'm glad they actually actually listened, and it shows initiative, honestly, that they actually did listen, because I really do genuinely feel like if it wasn't for him saying that, we would have got another shit season of the Dama, another shit season of just will they, won't they bullshit that doesn't matter, that feels like the show's just in a purgatory. This to me doesn't. This feels like a real world building. This feels like they are expanding the Walking Dead universe, and it honestly, even over Daryl Dixon, feels, I know it's canon because we're seeing it, but it feels canon. Like, this feels like this should be the story that The Walking Dead explores. So for me, I can't complain in the slightest, even if there's cheesy dialogue, even if there is goofy moments like stupid names like the Traitor, even if in times Louise and Maggie's relationship felt a little forced, or things with Maggie and Negan felt a little forced. Doesn't matter to me. I think, again, I say this in every video I do. If I am immersed in the story, the idiosyncrasies of getting to those story points don't really matter to me. And I'm actually very immersed in this story. I can't say that about any other spin-off of The Walking Dead. I could say that about the first few episodes of The Ones Who Live, for sure. I mean, that was kind of an exception. We had to see Rick, and how can you not be immersed in seeing where Rick went all those years? This is different, though. This actually feels like we're getting back to, okay, fuck all the shit we did, let's get back to The Walking Dead. That's what this feels like, and I genuinely do believe, aside from the apocalypse stuff, which is the biggest thing I'm applauding, aside from that, the biggest example of it is Louise and Maggie. Even though it is a relationship and it's a cardinal sin to do something like that against Glenn in the eyes of some people, whatever. The truth is, this is natural character progression for her. Even at the end of the episode when she loses her ring, it kind of shows, I don't like the cheesy flashbacks. Yeah, sure, it's cool to see Glenn on screen and stuff like that, but I don't like that shit. I understand the point and the symbolism they're going for. It's a shame that the writers feel like people are stupid enough not to understand that, but essentially she loses the ring in the Walker fight when the sinkhole is forming, which by the way was really cool. And even the scenery there at the end with where you see the road broke and you see the train cars underneath the subway, I thought that was really cool too, but whatever. The end symbolizes that Maggie is losing Glenn. By the way, she lost her ring. She's like losing what the one thing left that she was holding on to him for. And I think that is a telltale sign of what's to come. We are getting the Dante storyline. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I hope they explore it. Yes, does that, like, in a sense, is that like, oh my god, like, but Glenn, I understand that. But also this is a real thing that happens to real people. And I think The Walking Dead, objectively, as a show, needs to get back to that concept of real things happening to real people. And what would you do if you had this blueprint for rebuilding power, even if it doesn't really make like real sense in the real world, to restore Manhattan, the biggest city, you know, in the country, and actually do something to it. Like, this story and where it's going, the arcs of this season, just feel right. I am a big fan of it. I really am. And I'm going off a ton. Someone's calling me. I don't know who's calling me. Maybe it's one of the PR people from The Walking Dead saying, hey, good job actually saying positive stuff. That's actually my fiance. Okay, whatever. Anywho, I was a big fan of this episode. The only one thing I will say that I didn't mention is I did like that we got to see Maggie talking about Eugene and all of that stuff here. But the one thing that I've said so far in every review of this season, and I'm going to keep saying, is why are they there? Why are they not talking about where they came from? There's never been a mention of the Commonwealth. That just feels so goofy to me with this methane and what they're trying to build. It's a glaring thing to omit. Oh, by the way, they have a huge community. They could really use this methane. What happened? Why are they holding that out? I genuinely do not understand that. I don't know. They have to be doing it for some sort of reason. They have to be. And I will say, I'll also applaud Scott Gimple really quickly before we end this video. In a podcast he did recently, he said that he's always trying to find ways to tell the comic stories and fulfill their stories. And I think we are getting that right now with Louise and Maggie. So I can't complain. I think they are listening. I really do think this is a step in a good direction. I'm genuinely surprised, coming from season 2, how much shit I spewed on that season. I'm really liking this season so far. Again, time will tell. I got my hopes up too high for the ones who live, and that disappointed me in the ending. So we'll see if it follows that sort of trajectory or not. But as of this moment, as of August, what's today? August 16th, 2026? I'm all for this season. This is definitely my favorite season of Dead City so far. So I'm all for it. I hope you liked the cameo that my handy dandy knee had in this video, but I'd like to hear from you. Was this the best episode? No, but I'm not reviewing it on, was this like a 8 out of 10? I'm reviewing it on what I got out of this episode. And what I got, I really thoroughly enjoyed, and I like the direction it's seemingly going in. So I'm all for it. I'd love to hear from you. How do you feel about it? Down there in the comments, let me know. And with all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video. My knee thanks you too. And with all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this, like I said. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.